Hi everyone, welcome to your penultimate lesson that you are going to be doing at home. So today we're looking at resistors in parallel and series. It's quite a simple concept and we're just going to practice it lots, so nice and easy. So the first bit is resistors in series. If you have two resistors next to each other in a series circuit or in a branch, the total resistance is given by the formula R total is R1 plus R2 plus R3, etc, etc. Basically, you just add them together. So here we go, a 6 ohm resistor in series with a 4 ohm resistor are equivalent to a 10 ohm resistor. So occasionally you will see it being referred to as REQ as opposed to R total. And what they're trying to say is that's R equivalent. Like what's the same, what one resistor could we put in to represent all of these? So it's the same thing as R total effectively. Now, the theory behind this, how do we know that that is true, is from Kirchhoff. So in Kirchhoff, we know that the EMF, which is the energy input into a circuit, is the same as a total potential difference around every loop. So V here is going to split into V1 and V2. You know that. Now, if I use Ohm's law, I can say that V1, V2 and V are all made up of current times the respective resistances. So V, which is our EMF, our input into the circuit, would be IRT, where RT is the total resistance. V1 would be IR1 and V2 IR2. Now I can see that there is an I on every single one of these equations, so I can get rid of that and it becomes RT is R1 plus R2. And obviously if you have more resistors in series, you just add them on as well. So that's why that is the case. Now let's look at resistors in parallel. Now in GCSE you were taught that the more resistors there were in parallel, the less the total resistance. And that is completely true, but now we're going to look at why that is. So the total resistance, R total, of any number of resistors, R1, R2, R3, etc., is given by 1 over RT equals 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. Now, the most common mistake when people use this equation is that they will work out, they'll put their R1, R2, R3 in, fabulous, they'll work out 1 over R total, and then they'll forget that that is in fact 1 over R total and not R total itself. So to get R total, you need to do, ironically, 1 divided by 1 over R total. I'll show you what I mean in an example question in a moment, but just so you're aware that that is a common mistake. So let's look at the theory as to why this is true. Now we're going to be using Kirchhoff's first law, and the idea that current splits when it gets to a junction. So here we've got I, which is the total current coming from the cell, and it splits into I1 and I2 at this junction. So if I say I equals I1 plus I2, I can then use Ohm's law again to say V over RT equals V1 over R1 plus V2 over R2. Since voltage is the same in any closed loop, so we're using Kirchhoff's second law again here, V, V1 and V2 are all the same. So again, I can get rid of them from the equation, giving me R total is 1 over R total is 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. So let's do a practice question. Series is nice and easy, but we'll do one anyway. So we've got 2 ohms, 7 ohms, RT is 2 plus 7 is 9 ohms. So really simple. Now let's do the same, but these resistors will be in parallel. So 2 and 7. So 1 over RT is 1 over 2 plus 1 over 7. So, I don't have my calculator on me, that was stupid. 2, 7, 14 or something like that. Right, okay, well I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to do it with common denominators because I don't have my calculator on me at this point. So 1 over RT equals 7 over 14 plus 2 over 14. 1 over RT is 9 over 14. RT is, basically you just swap the fraction around to do 1 divided by it. So 14 divided by 9, which is 1.05 over 9. It's a pain, isn't it? I'm going to roll with 1.6 ohms. There you go. Now let's do a slightly more complicated example. Here I have two resistors in series, and then they are connected in parallel to another resistor of 10 ohms. So how would I work out the total resistance? The first thing I would do is I would work out the equivalent resistance of those two, because it's really easy basically. So I can assume that it would be the same as, I know that because I've just added them together. So 5 and 5 is 10, so they are the same, they are equivalent. Then I can work out the total, the new resistance. So 1 over RT is 1 over 10 plus 1 over 10. So 1 over RT is 2 over 10. Swap it round to find RT. RT is 10 divided by 2, 5 ohms. Right, I hope that makes sense. You're now going to do some practice questions, and I'll see you on Zoom later. Thanks everyone.